Marla and Dave radio experience begins in 3, 2, 1.
Now, if you're ready, we will begin.
Welcome to the Marla and Dave radio show. This is reality radio with a couple that keeps it real. Current events, pop culture, music, relationships, fitness, the hot topics of the day. Marla and Dave Thomas. This is the Marla and Dave radio show. Real radio.
Welcome to the Marla and Dave show. I'm Marla by myself because Dave doesn't have on headphones.
Yes,
so
I was still working today, setting things up, and I just noticed that part of something in my document wasn't right, so it kind of threw me off. I apologize. But and again, like Marla said, welcome to the show.
You're so focused, Dave.
I'm trying to be, Marla.
That's really nice. One of us needs to be because it sure as hell is usually not me. How about that?
Well, I'll let that one go as is. We'll keep going. Anyway, we had a pretty crazy week this week.
We did have a crazy week. First of all, I always have to say, Dave, I should really start with a welcome back to our own show for the two of us because it's been a minute.
It has been a minute, Marla. We've been dealing with some things, as pretty much most of those of you who listen to the show would know. Marla's been keeping you pretty up to date. With the things that we've been dealing with our son. And good news is...
Which has been all-consuming.
Absolutely. But the good news is he's in a good place right now. So, Marla, you want to bring him up to speed on that? Or is that a little later in the show?
No. I'll bring everybody up to speed. Excuse me. Like Dave said, those of you who have been following, it's been... Man, I almost kind of don't know where to start because I don't really know where we left off. But what I will say is, this is a testimony that I will say is through the grace of God. My heartfelt outreach on Facebook, which is so interesting because the truth be told, I didn't even intend for it to be that. I just my nature is transparent, period. And I went on social media, and before I could stopping to talk about what I was going through, I just began to emote such sincere emotions and heartbreak about what we were experiencing. And one thing led to another. And there's a young lady that I play tennis with, and her name is Jordan Jaffe. What's up to the Jaffe family? Jordan's mother doesn't even have a Facebook. And Jordan was watching the feeds and said, "Mom, you need to see this." And took the computer to her mother. And every time a post would go up, her mother would watch and she would cry. And she looked at her family and said, I got to try to do something. And Rhonda Jaffe said, "Here's what I'm going to do. Ask her family, do you think this will be okay? Will she be upset about this?" And they unanimously decided that they were going to go ahead and they supported their mother in writing a letter to Dr. Phil. And within 24 hours, the producer from Dr. Phil, Trey, was in my inbox.
Now, in the meantime, all this was going on behind the scenes. Marla's mom, when I was in New York on a trip, Marla's mom, as you affectionately know her as Mimi, came up with the plan to actually try to find DJ and actually put him in a hotel room until we can figure out what we could possibly do with him, especially since there had been violence in the home, so he really couldn't come back to the house. So those were kind of up in the air. As God would have it, we found DJ, and within a matter of, 2 or 3 days, what Marla just told you actually took place, and we actually had DJ in a place for the Dr. Phil show to actually be able to actually get a hold of DJ.
Right. So he had to have a location, which was super important. But anyway, the episode will air November the 8th, which is a Wednesday next week on Dr. Phil. But in real time, which is why I cried out for prayer the day of, DJ accepted their offer to go into a care facility here in the Southern California area. So as of today, we're still sleeping because our son is safe. What we do know is the prayers have to continue. The outreach needs to continue. All of it has to continue because the healing is a process. And during this time, by the way, which is why we're welcoming back our guest for today. Today we welcome back Deanna Robinson into the Madhouse for part 2 with our chat on mental illness. So the question that I'm asking is, what is it like to live with this diagnosis on some level and to literally survive the psychosis and what it's like? And Deanna and I have become people who are friends, and we talk. And she was sharing with me so many details. I said, Deanna, would you please do a live feed with me? And she was available and agreed to come on the show. So you don't want to, you need to stay tuned today, because Deanna is managing, she's living affected with this diagnosis, and she's going to talk to us about that. So DJ is in treatment at this moment. We're still praying that he will accept the medical, to be able to accept being on meds, which is essential to his full recovery. As far as we know at this point, he was still rejecting that, but not rejecting taking refuge or accepting the residency at this facility. So that in itself is awesome. And so, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and like I said, I just got back from the road. Maybe I didn't say. I just got back from SoJam, which is an a cappella festival that they have every year in Raleigh, North Carolina. It was huge. We had a great time, and Take 6, we did what we do. And I think that's pretty much our update. Marla and I have not been playing tennis, so I can't really brag about my superior tennis acumen and prowess. But Marla has been very competitive when it comes to her baseball knowledge. As you know, the Dodgers are playing the Astros in the World Series, and the World Series has been out of control.
Yeah, it is.
I will have to admit,
like a reality series.
I haven't seen a series. Usually people say baseball is kind of boring, and it kind of is unless you're into baseball. But this has been insane. The leads have been going wildly back and forth, not one or two runs.
The longest game in history, in World Series history, was on Sunday night.
I mean,
it was 5 hours and 40-something minutes.
I actually had a bet with our youngest daughter's boyfriend that the Dodgers would sweep, and so not only did they not sweep,
you just gave up our whole dowry.
No, that
Thanks,
didn't happen.
Dave. Now we lost our daughter.
That didn't happen. So, but now not only did the Dodgers not sweep, it kind of looks like they could easily lose.
Yeah.
The game tomorrow is pivotal.
And let me say this right quick. This is very important that I put this out here now. For those who are contributing, and there's a list of people, thank you, each one. I still need you to continue doing what you're doing. It's the SOS campaign, and I have to explain it a little bit. What I need everybody to understand is this drive to care for our son in his mental illness and in his condition has been, it's not just now, it's been a lifetime. And to be honest, it's a labor of love. So for me, there's so much needed financially with all that we're dealing with, including now we're into the legal end of it all, that I'm not requiring anything. This is just open. So if every penny can be used, there's now a foundation, Loving Beyond Reason, that is actually up and will be totally running by next week. That's nonprofit. But in the meantime, our hole is a big hole, but it's only your heart and whatever you choose by love. That's it. So it could be 25 cents. And so for me, I have to put that out there because I needed to explain what it is and why it is. And it will be continuous and ongoing because I'm going to fight till I am no more. So join me.
You know what? In the news, it used to be that the news cycle and the sort of the gossipy kind of celebrity news out here in LA was just one thing, but it's almost become that the news coming out of DC is more insane than any other news on
Love
the
and
planet.
hip hop ain't got nothing
you know what I mean?
on the White House.
DC and hip hop. Love and DC. Is that a thing? Anyway, and we're going to get to that in the news. The number to call us is 323-524-2599. It's the Marla and Dave Show. We have Deanna Robinson in studio with us. She was our guest several weeks ago.
Our last live show. which is why this is part 2.
Okay, I
Was
guess
Deanna.
so.
And we're gonna come back after the break with our. We're gonna come into our segment with our mood songs.
Indeed.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Marla and Dave radio show on the Universal Broadcast Network. Current events, pop culture, the hot topics of the day. It's time for MaD News on the Marla and Dave radio show. Ladies and gentlemen, Marla and Dave.
Go ahead, Dave.
Before, like I was saying in the last segment, the news out of DC is insane, and they're now starting to. It seems like they're starting to give teasers. So before the weekend ended, and all throughout the weekend, it was just kind of out there. The suspense was through the roof because a special prosecutor Mueller had said that he had finally come up with a couple of indictments. Turns out that it was Paul Manafort and Rick Gates that were indicted today. And then the sneak attack is that back in July, they had already arrested George Papadopoulos, who was this really young go-getter. And it seems like he was an advisor.
White-collar thuggery.
For the Trump campaign. And the crazy thing about everybody knew that Manafort and his partner actually were sort of in that gray area between criminality, criminal behavior, and just uncool. But they were working for a Ukrainian government party that had close ties to the Kremlin, and they were supposedly laundering money for him.
Are you shocked? Are you shocked? Is anybody here shocked? Is anyone listening shocked?
I'm kind of.
Are you really?
I'm actually kind of shocked that Mueller was able to actually get so much documentation that would say so. I mean, if I was that shady,
I'm shocked that you're
there would be
shockery.
no paper trail to catch me like that. It seems
If
insane.
you were shady and smart, this is Trump we're talking about.
I can't say that Manafort's not smart, but anyway,
you're not smart to connect with Donald Trump.
But
in
like
a major
I was
platform.
saying, the crazy thing is actually Papadopoulos actually pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
So now it really seems like they're actually pulling people in that are actually maybe in a position to force them to turn state's evidence. Anyway, Marla, yeah, he was arrested in July, indeed. And
well,
yeah. Oh, I didn't know that he was wired.
In conversations talking to.
Oh man.
Well, the other thing that has broken wide open, it seems like a never-ending scroll of allegations and accusations, is the sexual misconduct. And
it started with Harvey Weinstein and powerful men in Hollywood.
Most recently, Kevin
assaulting
Spacey
women.
Now they've canceled the House of Cards, by the way, as of today.
Actually, no, I didn't hear that because did they cancel the show altogether? I just heard that they weren't going to pick it back up.
They canceled the show altogether today.
Wow.
And there was a young actor who said that Kevin Spacey, he accused Kevin Spacey of sexually inappropriate behavior with him at the age of 14.
Anthony Rapp from the Star Trek Discovery.
Yes.
The movie.
He said that Kevin Spacey was making forceful sexual advances on him 3 decades ago when Spacey was 26 and Anthony Rapp was 14.
Yes.
Which also would then imply pedophilia.
Well, I think that was the big stink about with the Kevin Spacey story, is that he seemed to conflate, because he also ended up coming out in his strange apology saying that he was indeed gay, as if we didn't all know that anyway. But he literally seemed to conflate homosexuality with pedophilia.
Right, like they went
hand in
hand
really
some
uncool,
kind of way.
Which is completely uncool.
Well, this is a big topic on a lot of levels, and it seems to have endless roads and fingers and roots that now I can tell you this, that things that swing far to either side, now people are speaking up about, ill circumstances, and so it seems as if, which is a good thing, that things are no longer going to be tolerated. When you speak up this much, things have to change, and I'm hoping that this will be the change for the better.
I didn't really know where you were going when you were talking about things that swing. But anyway, there was a museum in D.C.
David, everybody doesn't swing, son.
There was a museum in D.C. that had a video screen on the wall that really looked like a fish tank. And it seemed like
it says don't touch.
And it
so
says
this is
don't
a big,
touch. Yes.
big, look at this.
It's on the screen now.
If every kid needs to learn this, you should just sit your kids down and say, when we go out and I say don't touch, here's why. And let them learn the lesson.
So the guy who you see falling down is Gregory Heinzman. And he literally couldn't resist the don't touch, which means, to most people, go ahead and touch it. And you see what happens. So I just thought that was extremely funny. Anyway, that's been the MaD News. We're going to get back to the show.
This ain't your mama's radio show. Can you handle the truth? Then get ready for a real radio experience. Ladies and gentlemen, Marla and Dave.
Well, before we introduce our guest, because David and I are a little bit, we work our show on time, but we were a little bit startled. We had a little delay, and the real delay is that Dave wasn't even headphone ready. So let's play our mood songs right now.
We're not alone. We're on our way home. We only have a few more miles to go.
Hold me now.
Well, this is my mood song.
Is going down. I don't feel nothing when I hear you say it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
You've done it again, Dave. Actually, I can't dig the Dina, welcome back to the Madhouse. Can we? So you got to grab your mic.
Make sure you talk right into the mic.
And bring it up nice and close.
All right, I got
There,
you.
yeah, you can, and it swivels. You can, you never know though, because you've become such a regular with me at this point. 2 weeks in a row. By the way, this is a guest record. We've had guests that have repeated.
Yes.
But not one. Literally, the last live show was you.
All right, now.
And now you're back, girl.
I feel kind of special.
I love it.
Anyway, so
love
for
it.
those of you, this is a very special appearance for us, for all of us. You and I we've had some very deep private conversations and some very lengthy private conversations after we connected. And I know that you can go ahead and let everybody know. David and I definitely are going to be in partnership with Nami, with our foundation, which is Loving Beyond Reason. But more importantly, in direct partnership with you.
Okay.
So you can let everybody know about your Nami association.
Sure, absolutely. Pardon me. The organization that I work with is called the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It is a national organization. They have NAMI state offices throughout the entire country, and in each state there are affiliates. In California, in Los Angeles County, we have about 12 affiliates. The affiliate that I belong to is the NAMI San Fernando Valley affiliate, and for them, I am the volunteer recruitment, training, and management chairperson. And I'm involved quite a bit in helping to build this really, really awesome organization that I would have to say just kind of saved my life. So
Wow.
go ahead and put it out
Wow.
there just like that. Helped save my life for sure. In a particular, in the situation that DJ is in right now, if it had not been for Nami and coming out of the hospital and going to a place that taught me a little bit more about the biology of mental illness, because I kind of wasn't buying it, even though it had been like 7 years that I had been initially diagnosed. I wasn't buying it, but I got involved with this place. It wasn't Nami that taught me about the biology of mental illness. So I started to learn things I could sink my teeth into, as opposed to it, being kind of ethereal and what is this mental illness?
But can I break in right there?
Sure,
Because when you said it was, because as you know, we've been discussing this, and we've let you guys know as well. Part of the issue with our son is actually getting him to agree to what it is he's actually dealing with. Right. Now, when you said it was the education about the biology of mental illness, break that down a little bit for us. What did you learn?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So without going into great detail, because it's, just kind of
boring.
Technically, yeah.
It's technical.
But I started to understand how neurons talk to each other. These brain cells, how they talk to each other, how they communicate, and how there is so much going on in the brain at the same time. Just stuff popping off everywhere. But this is just our central headquarters right here. It just directs all the traffic everywhere, right? So I started to learn about how neurons talk to each other.
So science,
right?
The science of the brain.
Started to learn the biology of the brain. Heard things like synapse and neurotransmitters and how
receptors and
yes, and how in my case where I have bipolar 1. Which is, I have psychotic features. I have extreme.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Can you tell everybody just succinctly what is your actual diagnosis?
My diagnosis is bipolar 1 disorder with psychotic features. I also have a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder and dissociative disorder. So the bipolar disorder, the one that gets the most attention, rightly so, is the one where, I'm so down, it's bipolar, right?
Right.
So
two opposite ends
exactly.
of mood.
So as far up as I can go is as far down as I can go too. So I can think, really delusional, things like, I'm Jesus, I'm the second coming, I'm going to be real famous, I'm going to have a lot of money, and, I deserve this and this and that and the other thing. Just really, really lofty thinking, way up there. Down to the other side, because what goes up must come down. Down the other side is I can't get up out of the bed in the morning. It's a real struggle to do that. It's difficult to take care of personal hygiene, to just be functional at all. I don't want to talk to people. Please don't call me. Please don't call me about
Now, when you go down into the valley, as you're explaining, is that accompanied with delusional thinking at the same time as well?
At some points, it can be, yes. When I go down a little too far, and forgive my usage of words, but when I go way down, I can start to think things like I don't need to be here anymore.
So that's suicidal thoughts.
Oh yeah. And thankfully, I'm so completely and utterly blessed because thankfully, not for the last 3 years have I been
to a low like
depressed.
that.
No,
right?
No, and that, I got to say. That's
Come on.
huge.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's
There
big.
you go.
Yeah,
That's big.
that's
'cause
huge.
We celebrate with you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. But I kind of when I talk to folks about what's going on with me, I always kind of like to just tell folks who I am.
Right.
Because I'm not my illness.
Right.
Absolutely.
You don't say, hey,
Doesn't
cancer.
define you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. So, I'm Deanna. You could probably tell I'm kind of goofy, kind of silly. I love to laugh, love to smile. I am a lover of life for sure and positivity. I am completely and utterly in love with my 5 kids. I'm telling you. Can I tell you? I got the best kids. Oh my gosh. And they're all grown. My youngest is 24. She'll be 20. Oh my gosh. They're getting ready to go up in age.
Wow.
24. And my oldest is 34.
Wow.
Ain't that something?
It
I
is.
look good, John.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. And believe it or not, I have 6 grandkids.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So the kids, I say all the time, kids are the gift that keep on giving.
I'm telling you.
If mine are watching, not without 2 signatures on the line, the rules still apply. Anyway, so you and I, one of the things that, like I said, you and I were talking, and you were so, your conversation with me has been from day one, so enlightening. Number one, when you came to the last show, I left with an understanding that hope is how I walked out the door. I still, very heavy based on where DJ is right now, which still seems to be in a psychosis, but contained in a safe place. What are some of, and you named 4 diagnoses, and I'm going to repeat. So you said you have been diagnosed with bipolar 1, PTSD, psychotic features.
That's
Bipolar 1 was
right.
psychotic
Exactly,
features.
exactly.
Disassociative.
And dissociative disorder. Okay, so talk to me about the psychosis and what are early signs? So for you, one who has been diagnosed on this end of mental illness, tell me how that looks for you.
Okay. So one of the things that happens that I now realize that I have to watch is too much change at once and too much stress. Like that'll do it every single time. And it could be good change. You know, it's not anything bad it's just stress. So when I am not able to sleep, when I'm not able to eat, when I start talking a lot, incessantly.
Do you hear yourself talking a lot? And do you say to yourself, wow, how much sleep, when you say not able to sleep, when do you, Deanna, say, okay, it's been one whole night of me not really being able to get rest.
Okay.
I'm tripping.
Right. So I got diagnosed in 1997.
Okay.
So it's 2017. So it's been a little while. First 7 years I wasn't having it at all. So it took me a good 7 years to accept the condition after I was first diagnosed. So I've gotten a lot of information at this point because I've been hospitalized about 13 times. And every time I learned something new. And the last year, I was hospitalized twice. So I learned a lot because my disorder has never manifested the way that it is manifesting now. So when I say that, I mean, I've never been way up like this, like I have manifested and had to go into the hospital. And I've never stayed up for that long and never had just zero insight into me being ill because I was able to sleep. I was able to eat, but something really extraordinary had happened in my life. I had just this really beautiful, profound spiritual experience, or awakening, I should say, and it was just absolutely beautiful. And I just kind of stayed on cloud 9 for quite some time. So I didn't realize. I thought it was just, wow, this is a heavy duty change. Something did precipitate that. I came out here, and the reason why I came out to California, I'm from Maryland, and the reason why I came out here was to attend a spiritual community that I belonged to for 17 years, in fact. And I belonged there to the school in Maryland. And moved out here because there was a sort of a migration because the school is, an international Bible school. So there was a migration to the headquarters, which is in Los Angeles, California. Okay. And now my life, it was my life, y'all.
Yeah.
Like 3-4 times a week.
You were all in.
There. Yeah.
You were
and
all in.
Listen, like all in too.
Yeah.
So I'm coming out here and I'm so excited and then find myself, less than a year later, not going
to the spiritual, right? Connect the very glue,
the thing that was holding
the
you.
connector, right?
Okay,
right.
Didn't make a whole lot of sense to me at all. And in fact, I knew that it was coming because it was in my spirit, right? I just fought to my peril, not to leave, right? And then when I finally did, I was in a depressed state, stayed on my couch for 30 days.
Wow.
It's like that. I mean, the thing was just really, I loved it so much and could not understand why I was being compelled to leave.
So are you,
okay,
let me stop you.
Yeah.
So, because we all want to understand, I want to understand. So there's going to be a lot of questions. And again, everybody who's joining us on all our different platforms, thank you for joining us. The chat room is full. Facebook is full. 323-524-2599. If you have questions, feel free. We'll stop and ask the questions. You said that you were on the couch for 30 days and you really wanted this. And you said you were fighting.
Yes.
Are you fighting thoughts inside of your head? Where is that? Like, in other words, you're saying that this is something that you were so in love with, and you couldn't understand why you couldn't understand why you weren't going.
Yeah.
So what is happening? Are you having a dialogue with yourself?
Oh, absolutely.
And are you okay? So explain that to me just a little bit.
Sure.
What does that feel like?
So let's see. You know how we have an inner voice, right?
Yeah,
Right,
for
right,
sure.
right. I mean, that's
Sort of
kinda
your
what
communication with your own
Yes,
conscience.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's all.
We all have it. Okay.
That's all. So,
But you couldn't
just-
break. You couldn't break through. You couldn't. Right.
To complete warring with myself, because I wanted to stay in school. It just didn't make sense for me not to be there. But the spirit in me is like, nope, gotta go. And turns out, it's pretty remarkable that the very thing that I wanted to experience by coming out here to California, which was be closer to my heavenly father and mother,
and that whole spiritual community.
Yes,
Yeah.
was what wound up happening when I left the school. Like, I began to experience the reality of all of those things that I was taught for all of those years. And so that was huge for me. I mean, I'm a preacher's kid. I grew up in church, and I had all, there's a real big spiritual component
Got it.
with my
As
Mania.
is DJ.
Yes,
Which is
yes,
interesting.
Yes. And it's like that for many people. You've probably heard that. That there is, with delusion and psychotic features, many times the storyline is
Similar.
religious, and they call it hyper-religiosity. But anyway, that was huge for me. That was huge. And so my spiritual practice began to be meditation, prayer, reading spiritual literature, and journaling and exercise every morning. Up like clockwork, 5:30. I mean, it was just awesome, y'all. Can I just say?
Yeah.
I mean, I was in the courtyard in the apartment where I live, and later come to find out that they couldn't understand why they built that courtyard. And I have the place where I live is relatively new. As a matter of fact, I was the first person to live in that particular apartment. So the guy was like, "Okay, why did we build this courtyard? Is anybody out there? Because there's a fountain out there, and there's big rocks and all that kind of stuff." So I go out there early in the morning, and the question was asked, and one of the residents coordinators was like, "Yeah, Deanna goes out there every morning, and she sits out there and meditates and reads and all that." And he was like, "Well, it was built for her." I'm like,
There you go.
Indeed.
Right.
I'll take it.
I will take it. But as that journey was happening, and I began to confront some demons, so to speak, I started to hear a voice that was very distinct from my own. And that wasn't the first time that, I started to, I had that experience. I've had that experience previously, but this to me felt like it was something a little different.
And
So I
that
hear
seems
music.
like a good place for us to
Yes.
actually put a pin in it, and
Sure.
we'll come right back, because I really want a little bit more distinction. If you could explain a little bit more about that distinct voice different from your own, and what that feels like other than just the conversation with your own conscience. We're having a great conversation with Deanna Robinson, and we'll be right back.
Hey guys, listen up. Learn something. 26 years of marriage from two unique perspectives equals 52 years of relationship experience.
Excuse me, that's 58 years? Oops, I made a boo-boo.
It's time for Ask Marla and Dave. Answers to your questions about life, love, and relationship based on Marla and Dave's real life experience. It's about to get real. Ask Marla and Dave.
All right, the Ask Marla and Dave feature is a part of the show where you cut right through the red tape. You go to our website, www.marlandave.com. You ask us a question. You actually fill out a form. You send us your question. We get to it right here on the show without you having to call in and actually wait in the phone line. So the question this week is what, Marla?
Hi, Marla and Dave. It's really hey. Hey, Marla and Dave. I'm a married woman who recently confirmed my husband was cheating on me. I haven't confronted him with this information yet for a couple of reasons. The biggest one being that in the first 2 years of our marriage, I stepped out on him and he forgave me. I've gone around and around in my head about this issue. I have so many questions that I need to ask him, but I feel I owe it to him to let it go. I would love to hear your thoughts on my dilemma. Thanks in advance for your input. Signed, Turnabout is fair play. And of course, I assign these tags because we want to be sure that anyone who's writing us stays anonymous. So your name will never be called because you and your husband could be listening together on your computer, and then that would be a bad thing. So you're just Turnabout is fair play. Go, Dave.
Well, I'm always a big proponent of people working out pretty much any issue that you can work out in a relationship. But I do not agree with when you forgive somebody, that being or when somebody forgives you, that being a guilt anchor that then says that other person has license to just do whatever they want to. So, but
it didn't sound like that the husband is taking that as that. I think she's feeling like
whether you put it on yourself or whether your significant other puts that on you, it's not really a guilt, a weight that you should wear around your neck. So,
Doree Silva in the chat room says tit for tat.
No,
or
no, Doree.
Slit for
no, Doree. Anyway, so with that being said, I think that you should confront him because even this new indiscretion is going to put a wedge in the relationship. And if you were able to get past the last one by full disclosure, allowing forgiveness to take place, you probably need to go through that process again.
What I would say it would be pretty much, I hate always saying similar things as Dave because I want to have my own lane in this life, but I kind of agree. I think that everything is its own issue, and I think that it's really about the healthy communication within your relationship. If it's bothering you, to try to resolve it on your own is not a good idea because I can tell you firsthand that when someone is unfaithful in a relationship, it is never about the other person. A person who chooses to cheat makes that decision on their own for their own set of weaknesses and inconsistencies. And so to take that on is a mistake. So I think that you should sit down, and you could already resolve that you're going to stay and work it out, but I think that you should take this as its own incident and work through it.
Remember to send your comments to marlandave.com and post your comments on the contact page. And remember, if you don't ask, we can't tell. That's been the Ask Marla and Dave feature. We'll be right back.
Intelligent, fun, and super real. This is the Marla and Dave radio show.
All right.
Deanna, you were telling us about
another voice
suddenly
that took
a voice
over.
that you understood was distinct from your own. In the midst of the beginning of the break there, did you understand that as a distinct voice?
Not at first. Not as a distinct voice that indicated that I was on a path to not being well. What I thought that I experienced was something that was, I'm not saying that it wasn't. I really felt like it was just a really beautiful spiritual awakening after doing something consistently every single day with a great deal of structure, meditating. I mean, seriously, meditating for sometimes an hour, just sitting there by the fountain, by the water. And can you just imagine all that you can receive from the universe just sitting there for an hour, listening and grounding myself? That was one thing that was really, really important, because when I did start to notice, okay, this is very distinct from me, I needed to do some grounding activity, which was listen to the sounds that were, coming into my hearing. That meant the fountain, any airplanes that were going over ahead and cars down the street. I needed to look at colors and speak them. I needed to feel my feet on the
almost
ground.
as if you were being distracted. Because now, hold on, I think the story is so compelling. I think we have a caller on the line.
Okay.
Caller, you're on the Marla and Dave show with Marla, Dave, and Deanna. Welcome to the Marla and Dave show. What's your name and where you're calling from?
Caller, you there?
Okay, so call us back because we will grab your calls as they come.
So,
and again, to remind everybody, 323-524-2599. So go ahead.
So, Deanna, you were saying because it sounds like what you're explaining is almost sort of as if you're being distracted. Does that make sense, or is that ring true from your meditation? It seems like with all the
I
things
see
that
what
you're
you're saying.
receiving.
Actually, it was kind of integrated into my meditation because what I did, it's really funny because, you know, when I get to this particular place, now again, I was diagnosed in 1997, you know, really started to accept in 2004. So from 2004 up until now, I've had lots of experiences.
right.
Yeah. So I'm catching myself because I know that, you know, I have to catch myself if I am not sleeping, if I am not eating, if there's too much change going on at once, even if it's good change, if there's too much stress happening. I can't have those things be happening because then I got to do something about it. I have to call a doctor or whatever. So the funny thing about it was I was sleeping and I was eating and I was very, very peaceful, very, very happy. I mean, happier, clearer. Oh my gosh, just than I had ever been in my entire life. That is really not an overstatement at all.
So would you describe that as an onset of extreme mood elevation?
Mania?
I wouldn't say at that point. I would say... And this is the thing. This is the reason why I was saying I think, you know, probably as I'm getting a little older, my illness is manifesting a little differently. I'm having different experiences now. I'm out here in California where there's way more sun than there is, you know, back at home. I have the seasonal thing going on back at home. Not so much here because of the sun. So there are some things that I have to, you know, some new stuff.
Right.
Some new
you have
stuff.
to actually learn what this environment is like.
Right.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, Marla, that wasn't the beginning of what I considered to be, you know, my manic break. I just had to really watch myself. Like I'm happy. I'm easily happy.
Got it.
A kind of person to begin with. So I knew I just had to really pay attention to myself.
Which was what the grounding was about.
Exactly. Writing in my journal, writing down all of the stuff that was coming in my mind, questioning the things that were coming into my mind, because not soon after this beautiful spiritual awakening was happening, there were things that I was becoming suspicious about. So, you know, like things like, you know, you're God, right? I'm like, yeah, everybody's God. There's nothing that's not God.
Right.
Everything is God.
Right.
Well, no, you know, you're like big G God, right?
So now, are you hearing? Is this a distinct voice? Like I'm talking to you, you can hear it like that.
Yes.
Okay, that's a question.
Yes, very, very much. You know, I get this question a lot too. You know, folks ask, you know, is it your voice? Is it somebody else's voice? You know, what does it sound like? Well, sometimes it is my voice. And most of the time, actually, it is my voice. Sometimes it's a male voice. Sometimes it's a female voice. What is the same all the time is that it is distinctly different than who I am.
Got it.
So it is. I
got it.
Totally different. Just a different.
So at that moment when you first hear this conversation and that question was asked you, do you dismiss it or do you embrace it? Do you go, you know what? I'm God.
And see, this is how it gets interesting, because I do believe that, right? And that's why it gets interesting, right? Because I am definitely of the spiritual belief, understanding that there is nothing that God is not. It's just everything is Him.
Right.
So that includes me too. So I'm just a manifestation of this great allness, right? So when that's said to me, I'm like, yeah, okay. But when there's like this great, and it's not even so much as just in what I am hearing, it's also what I'm feeling.
You're connected to it, emotionally.
Yes. I mean everything, just like really that energy. That it's just wow.
So you mentioned to me, and I'm gonna just. This is why you mentioned that a lot of the times those who suffer are referred to as touched.
Yes.
And is that kind of what you're describing in this?
Yeah, I mean, when I say that, I mean that we have some exposure to some experiences that are not common, that are just uncommon. I know that I have, in an elevated state, I have felt, seen, experienced things that I know are just not common to people.
Right.
I mean, I've been there and come back and talk about it. It's just not common. And you know, some things that like, for instance, I was in a hospital and everything in me, all around me, was, "You are big G God." Everything. And then everything moved to support that.
Everything fit into that.
To support that. I mean, people just bought me stuff. Like, I didn't ask for anything, but they would just show up with like extra towels and chips and sandwiches and, you know, all this stuff.
So you were being showered, that nobody else was getting that, but you were getting it.
I was looking.
Yeah.
I wanted to, because I'm constantly trying to check my reality. Like, is this for real? Because by this time I have some experience, right?
Got it.
So I'm like, okay, is my disorder getting smarter? Like what's going on here? So I'm constantly trying to check my reality. So the whole point was that, you know, these elevated experiences, it's like the energy. And I was telling Marla, you know, spirit is just, wow, it's so incredible. Belief is something that's kind of amazing, because I know you hear about, you know, the motivational stuff with, you know, if you believe it, you can see it, and, you know,
If you can conceive it, you can achieve it.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
All the little cliche things.
But there's something to seriously believing what you believe, like going all in. You know, it's like the universe just says yes. You know, so that elevated kind of experience, that strong belief, just sort of, you know, that's why I'm always, you know, laughing when you talk about DJ, because, you know, in the kinds of things that you describe about him, the universe is moving to meet his.
So let's talk about that. One of the things,
even before you go there, though, because see, to me, even as I listen to you in your description, it almost doesn't feel like that it's an alternate reality. In other words, it almost seems like just a different way to approach reality.
Well,
as far as you're concerned, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and it does. Okay, so this phase that I'm talking about is like the real honeymoon, just getting married kind of phase.
So it's not a full break as far as you're concerned.
Yeah, not quite
okay.
Yet. So in the beginning, you know, like I say, this time I did not recognize what was happening. And then maybe after 3 or 4 months in, same thing, every day, journaling, meditating, you know, all that stuff, exercising. I just didn't realize what was happening. I didn't think anything was going on except for, wow, this is such an extraordinary spiritual awakening. So about 3 or 4 months in, things started to intensify, meaning my body started to vibrate a little bit more. My sleep regimen became a little less consistent.
Yeah.
But no matter what time I went to sleep, I would wake up. I would do, you know, the things that, you know,
your normal habits.
And I'm like, okay, this is new. this by the book structure is awesome. I love it. It's new. So I'm again looking at all of it like it's just this new, beautiful life, this freedom, this spiritual awakening. That is
so it kind of snuck up on you.
Yes. So. How it got to the point where, and it was just a blessing that my son happened to be here from Maryland. And of course, he's had these experiences before where I've been manic and I've, you know, just lost touch with consensus reality. And, you know, it had gotten to a point where the body started vibrating. The voices were becoming much more intense, much more demanding.
And by now it's more than one voice. Is that what you're kind of
so
like
it
you're
keeps
describing?
growing. Right, because initially with DJ, it was mostly about God. And then the next thing you know, it was Elon Musk, which was the first thing that, you know, and then it split from there, and it was Elon Musk and, right, he talked about Jay-Z and Beyonce, and then he's engaged to Rihanna. So now the conversations became, they grew. and they became consistent, like
So-
always.
Right. So you know how, and I don't know if this analogy will work or not, but I'm just going to go with it.
Okay.
You know how when you first get into a relationship, you don't just overshare, right? You don't just, just
Right.
get
Give
into it
everything-
and get
yeah.
all intense and, those kind of things.
You gradually get there.
Right. So, the voice is kind of just, hey, Dina, what's going on? You got, right? And just kind of, and as time is going on, it wasn't something where, bam, things are
Everything
just
goes
like
at
that.
once, right?
Yeah, it's
like a courtship.
working up. Yes, it is a working up to this whole storyline of I am God and I am going to be famous and rich and sell a bunch of books and do all of this other
Yeah.
stuff. Now, listen, that's not outside of the possibility of reality, right? So I can entertain all that stuff, right? So it gets to a place where I'm fighting with the voices because I know that this is not what I want. I know that I don't want life interruption. I know that I don't want to be outside of reality. I want to be square.
And I love
with
the
what's
word you
going on.
use, the term consensus reality.
Yes. I want to be cool with what's going on here. So I am busy writing down, and that's never happened before either. I've never been able to keep a train of thought in mania. So I'll write down exactly what I'm thinking, like pouring it out on paper, something I've never had before, which is kind of cool. I got to tell you, when I go back and
I want to
read it,
touch
it's
on that
kinda
too, because I
interesting.
want to know if you gone back and read those things that you were writing.
Wow is all I can say. But I just want to get to this, that the at the point where it does become a problem for the people around me, because again, it's like a long, non-ending conversation that's going on for me at the onset of trouble up until the time where law enforcement has to come into it. It's like one long continuous conversation of love, 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 love. Hey, Dina, you God, all is good. It's all good. And I'm constantly questioning, well, that's not right. I don't think that that's right. And why are you saying that? That doesn't make sense. And this constant back and forth of checking reality and this
And all the time that this is going on in your head, you're also in and out of what's going on legitimately and around you. So you're dealing
And
with
conversing with your son at
outside-
the same time.
You're dealing with me having a conversation with you, and you're actively involved with multiple conversations that are happening in real space and time inside of you. So in you, there's a conversation, and out here, there's a conversation, and you're acutely aware of all of it.
Yep. I am.
Wow, I have heartburn.
All right, Baron?
Heartburn. I'm not
Yeah,
even kidding. I
it-
feel anxious with that consideration. That just makes me feel like, what? Like, how can you?
Yeah. I mean, so there are conversations going inside and outside.
And so
every-
it sounds like the way how you're describing it, it happens in such a gradual way that you don't really recognize where the actual
Exactly.
break happens.
Like for me, this last couple times, that's how it's happened for me. Like I totally didn't realize that it was moving in that direction, particularly because of this huge life change, right? In the past, though, it's not been that way. It's been like one time I didn't have money to pay for, the hundreds of dollars that it costs for medication every month. And I didn't take my medicine for, 10 days. And bam, my kids were like, something's wrong. They took me to
so it was really quick.
Yeah, I mean, it was quick. I was in the hospital and, got medicated and came home and still wasn't well. It does take a little while to come down from something like that. It can even be a couple years before you come down from something like that.
Wow.
Well, that's and so when we come back, one of the things that I want you to touch on, was it a gradual refining of your diagnosis from the bipolar 1 into the PTSD into the disassociative disorder, or did that all that diagnosis happen at one time? So we're going to ask you that and allow you to answer that when we come back. This is the Marla and Dave Show with Deanna Robinson. We'll be right back.
It's time for the Marla and Dave Doghouse. Marla has something that should put Dave in the doghouse. Dave has something that should put Marla in the doghouse. You decide who gets a biscuit and who gets busted and ends up in the doghouse.
All right, this is the Doghouse feature on the Marla and Dave Show. Marla, I'll allow you to go first this time.
You're going into the doghouse because I'm just going to come right out with it. I need you to enjoy sports And I need you. Dave's going in the doghouse because Dave has taken authority and ownership over experiences that he knows nothing about, because his father, when my father was actually on the baseball field, his father was on the couch at home reading books and going, son. So when David is watching the World Series and people are saying things and David is speaking with authority amongst our peers about exactly why people chew tobacco,
so here's the
and
thing.
all this other stuff, as if he's only heard these stories secondhand. They are not your experience. So fall back, bruh.
So here's the crazy thing about it. The crazy thing about it is it's not your experience either. It's your dad's experience.
But I was there.
And for the record,
I grew up in the sport.
And for the record, so last night Marla and I were
So
riding home
what's
from
my
our friend's
doghouse
house.
offense?
Marla's doghouse offense is actually claiming someone else's experience as her own.
I was
And then-
actually the daughter of the game. You were
no,
the daughter. You were the
I'm-
son
I'm
of
not-
Worthington Veggie Meat.
I'm not saying that you weren't. But what I am saying is you didn't have that experience. Your father did. So Marla, somebody said, why do they
So
chew
you're 2
tobacco,
generations
whatever?
removed.
And I said, well, it's probably to kind of relax them or to deal with something like that. So in the meantime, Marla was strangely actually becoming angry that
I was just irritated that Dave speaks about everything with authority. Listen, when we talk about music, we bow down. Great acapella
first of all,
superhero.
No, she doesn't.
Yes, we
As a
do.
matter of fact, that's another doghouse offense for a later date. But what Marla was
You can't
basically
double up
saying,
the
as
doghouse.
if I didn't know what I was talking about. Matter of fact, she didn't even think that her
Get in the-
dad chewed tobacco ever in life.
Get in the
Then she
doghouse. I told you he did because he made us chew it.
Anyway,
To teach us a lesson, and they always
in
taught
the
us a lesson.
meantime, I looked up and I didn't really, because things were going south. And I meant to send you this picture, Tony, and I'll have to remind me next week to actually bring this in to actually have this picture for the doghouse. Anyway, I happened to be right about the tobacco situation, but Marla actually started to accuse me that I was wrong. And she tried to shame me.
I did.
So Marla actually goes
I
in the
wanted you to
doghouse
just shut up.
for trying to shame. And even for wanting someone to be quiet, that seems like an impossible task for Marla herself.
It is.
So her hypocrisy is why she goes in the doghouse.
not going.
You guys get to vote who
I
gets
dare
the
you.
biscuit and who gets the
I'd
bone.
like to see anybody put me in there.
It's been the Marla and Dave show. You guys know how to vote. Contact us. Let us know. And I'll send your condolences to Marla in the doghouse. We'll be right back.
What's the action?
You'll laugh. You'll learn. You'll love. You'll get mad.
Shut up!
You'll get happy. But you won't be bored. This is the Marla and Dave radio show on the Universal Broadcast Network.
So I thank Deanna in private message and directly, and I'm going to thank her again because I don't take it for granted that you don't have to share these experiences. And I literally told you that I feel blessed beyond reason that you trust us with your story, because it's so many people are able to learn. 1 in 5 people is affected by mental illness. If it's not you, then it's clearly someone that you know. Right. So again, Dave, you were asking a question, so I just have to give that. Thank you.
First of all, I really appreciate sort of the inside look into what someone with what we call a brain difference experiences. And I love your term consensus reality, which pretty much sheds a light on the things that you experience, even though they're not our experiences, they are a reality for you.
Most
so it's
certainly.
not like you
Most
understand
certainly.
that it's not real. It's absolutely real for
Absolutely.
you. And I appreciate how you were describing the differences in the ways that the breaks can actually sort of happen. And lately that it's been sort of more of a gradual thing. And it came to me as a question that you shared with us your diagnosis as being bipolar 1,
with psychotic features
with PTSD and dissociative disorder. And I was wondering, is that a refining of the diagnosis that happens over time, or did that happen all at one time?
No, it certainly didn't happen all at once. The first diagnosis that I got was bipolar 1 disorder with psychotic features because, the first episode, the police had to come out and get me from the highway. because I was dancing and singing and crying and taking off my clothes and, things like that. And I stayed in the hospital for about 3 weeks. And in that particular time frame, I was given the diagnosis of bipolar 1 disorder with psychotic features. As time went on, and me experiencing the ups and downs and being hospitalized and whatnot, as I would talk to therapists, I got the PTSD diagnosis. Yes.
Now, was that because of something that you experienced earlier in life, or is that just trauma from what you were dealing with?
And that I'm so glad that you said that, because the very experience of mental illness is traumatic.
Yeah.
I mean, it absolutely is. I mean, if you can imagine having to live with such hypervigilance about, okay, is that right? Is that real? Is what I'm thinking okay? Is what I'm feeling right? Is this appropriate?
Not really feeling rest and mind rest.
Just that hypervigilance.
Just mind racing at all times. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason why I said it that way is because even when I would see D in the middle of his suffering, I could sense, you can look in his eyes and you can see the struggle that he's having with.
And he'll say sometimes, you're just trying to confuse me.
You're confusing
me.
Yeah.
Because the things are so constant for him that he just can't rest.
It really is. I mean, and I'll get back to your earlier on question. When this last time that I was hospitalized and the police got involved, I had been in intense mania, psychotic. I just really psychotic in my apartment all by myself with just voices, my body shaking and trembling and vibrating. I happened to leave out of my apartment with shirt on but no bottoms on, and running up and down the hall because the storyline playing in my mind was it's the end, and I am the child clothed in the sun, and I had to be protected. I mean, there was a whole religious storyline going on that was completely believable because I was always asking questions. And like, this is not right. This can't be right. But the voice would come back with some great reason. And based off of all of the experiences and conversations that had come from, up to that
Which would incorporate your environment and everything.
And
so it made it believable.
Most certainly. Oh, it's just so the voice so strong, body vibrating at such high intensity.
And when you say vibrate, is it actual physical trembling, or you just feel like an energy?
See it, it would, like, if you could see it how it felt, it would be like this. I mean, it was just so incredible.
Intense.
Oh my gosh. That's why I say it's traumatic, because this last time something happened that has never happened before. The time previous, I lunged at someone. I'd never done that before, like never. And then I couldn't remember that that's what I did until my son told me, and I just burst out crying because I'm like, what is this?
Now, do you remember now, or
no?
it's just
still
So
don't
this is
remember
now this
lunging
so
out.
normally though, after an episode, you do remember what you went through.
Yes, and a lot too, actually.
Because we did ask DJ, David asked him, did he know that he was walking down the street nude? And he said, yeah.
we had a full reasoning behind it, but
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
and then, something else that has never happened before is, voices told me to jump out of a third-story building.
but
That's
not to
never
commit
happened.
suicide, just with another reasoning.
The storyline being, you'll be okay. You're gonna fly. Can't nothing hold you down. And
This is the
a
proof.
sacrifice. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, there's, I like to say there that when you find somebody who has a mental illness who has, by all appearances, killed themselves, that's not necessarily
What they intended to do.
have to be
I posted something on my Facebook recently, and there's a young man who survived jumping off the Golden State Bridge.
Yeah, I
And
saw
have you
that.
seen
I
that?
saw that.
And
Yeah,
that just crushed me on another level because
Yeah.
he said
Oh, that was
the
a
minute his
beautiful
hands left the
video.
rail, he was like, "What have I done?" Like I don't.
wish
I'm
he
not.
hadn't done
Yeah,
it.
he wish he hadn't done it because in that moment of his consensus reality, obviously, nothing was true at that moment, and so what he said is, most of the time, people who are committing suicide, it is not their plan to die.
Right.
And that makes perfect sense, because when I begin to interact and talk with our son, the things that he believes are so real, but he has in his mind, when you talk to Dee, he will walk you through the reasoning.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
He will walk you through reasoning. So,
but you're shedding a beautiful light on the situation, because I used to say to Marla, you know, I from time to time would have conversations with DJ, but I would say it would take so long, because once he started talking, if he felt that I was interested in hearing what he had to say, I mean, he could talk for hours.
Yeah.
And so you said you got the PTSD diagnosis, and when did it get to disassociative? And for people who don't know, what does that actually mean?
So PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, and to simplify it, it's I'm having when I feel an uncomfortable situation that reminds me of how I was feeling, or is in any way familiar with how I felt when the trauma was happening.
You almost feel the trauma all over again.
Yeah, which leads into the dissociative disorder, because in order to survive some of the things that I had experienced, I had to go someplace else. It was a child's way of surviving, right?
Blocking it out,
right,
completely.
So going someplace else,
and somebody else other than Deanna could experience it, and Deanna could be okay.
I mean, right. I mean, that was really how I survived, and I really had quite the difficult and traumatic upbringing. So that has definitely played a tremendous piece in, my ability to be stable.
Okay, and so here's the thing. So in the midst of all of that, when did you decide that I need a more of a medical therapeutic approach? In other words, I'll start taking my medicine consistently, and how did that help you out?
Okay, so the two times that I just described to you, these last two times were out here in California. Previous to that, all the other hospitalizations had been
in Maryland.
So in 1997, I told you I was first diagnosed then, but of course because of stigma, being a preacher's kid, and like real heavy and strong into church, the whole demon thing, and if you think odd and you behave oddly and something's wrong with you,
possessed.
You need to, all
possession.
that kind
Dealing
of
with
stuff.
spiritual possession.
Right. And then as much as I loved the place that I belonged to prior to when I came out here, and prior to getting out of it, I loved it, but it also had some very damaging things for me, mentally and emotionally around mental health issues. It's like, kind of that double speak. Let's be real clear about what we're saying, because if we're being clear that, depression means that you're a negative spirit, I got problems and situations with that. And that's why there was so much of a battle going on within me, because I knew that what I was experiencing didn't just have to do with me feeling bad because I was just sad.
Right. Or demonic spirit that was on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
People don't really say, but even though there are some churches that I know that I'm not a part of, but I've heard that whatever your malady is, it's a demon of something. It's the demon of cancer. It's the demon of this.
It's the demon of gossip.
And unfortunately, I think what you're saying is that prevents people from seeking medical attention.
It certainly does. And thank you for saying that, Dave, because this is really, really important, because, I appreciate you all so much for having me back here and allowing me to shed some light on what it's like to live with it, like inside out. But, ultimately, if someone else is experiencing this or something, similar to it, get some help. And
it's okay.
Don't allow, someone to tell you that, you're a demon. You're a negative spirit. That's why you're experiencing this stuff. Because what it does is it keeps you sick.
Yeah.
It keeps you sick. And the wonderful news about that is if you do seek treatment, you do get help, you will be around people who are able to describe to you experiences like you have had, and you will feel some kind of community and connection rather than feeling like you are so alone. And that's what we need. We need to be around people who experience the same things that we do so that we can really connect and relate and support one another, because everybody else is like looking like, what's going on?
Which leads me to you being able to advise people like Marla and I, which you have done, and others who might be listening or watching. What should we say when we think someone that we're dealing with our loved ones?
Give us a absolute hell no. One of the things that disturbed you most, and one of the things that helped you most for those who were supporting.
Okay, so please don't ask me that I take my medication a day. That's a little bit of a trigger right there.
Okay.
Maybe perhaps, asking me, how I'm feeling.
You feeling okay?
Yeah, I mean, like, how you doing?
Now,
And
as opposed to, could we add in, are you feeling okay? Because something seems a little off.
Or asking if you have your medicine
is
is like,
far?
do you check your medicine?
Right.
Like, is there something, right? Clearly, are you medicated? Or
it would be akin to asking a woman.
You're clearly about to start your period.
Are you in PMS?
Because
maybe you shouldn't ask somebody that.
The most difficult thing about that, y'all, is that nobody wants to be viewed as defective, as sick, as something's wrong with them, right?
Because it actually delegitimizes what you're feeling by saying that what you're feeling is doesn't carry any weight with me. It's something else that you're dealing with.
It minimizes,
absolutely,
my experiences. So I am entitled to also be angry. I am entitled to also be irritated.
You're not just because you've been diagnosed with something that doesn't mean that you're going to roll like this. You're still human. And everybody else who may not have a direct diagnosis
goes up and down all the time.
They're angry, they're sad. We all have the same gamut of emotions.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. I like, and I know that family members, especially when they've seen their loved ones like, way out, they'll watch and they're just like, oh my gosh, I don't want them to go like that again. So I gotta, I gotta fix, I gotta watch, I gotta take.
Yeah. No, I can understand.
What's another one?
What should we say in that instance when we see something? It's just say how you feeling.
Yeah, just
and allow you to explain.
You don't even say, how you doing, Tina?
Right.
Right.
Just this is your family. These are your people. Just talk.
Right.
Ain't nobody gonna come out and hit you.
Right.
Just talk. Because I know for
treat you like a person and not don't talk to you. Don't talk to the illness.
Yes.
Talk to the person.
Absolutely.
What else? What's another one that
think
that is common that you've received that just you'd rather just not ever hear that?
Well, definitely the stuff that I was telling you about spiritually,
right?
Yeah, that's I have to say for me that was the most damaging. When my spiritual leaders are saying to me, if you're depressed or if you're inconsistent, that was, me saying it out loud to myself right now, that hurts.
Yeah, no.
Because I'm in a situation that I can't
control. Right.
And you're telling me just for being here,
change your mindset and things will be different.
Wrong. Yeah.
Like I wouldn't do that if I could.
Get a better outlook. Right.
You just need to know that you're a son, and that's it. You just need to. If it were that easy, that would be lovely.
So
I just need to know that I'm actually a Caucasian man, and no matter how much I consider that, it's not going to change my skin color. So it's almost the same thing. That's just too much. It's too much.
Well, that's great advice. We're gonna have we have more.
Okay.
When we come back from the break, we never have enough time. Gosh darn it, Dave! You need to go on the doghouse. The next time you ask me, "Am I about to start my period?" I'm doghousing you. Thank you, Deanna, for empowering me.
You're welcome. Absolutely welcome.
Dave's a chauvinist.
We'll be right back.
It's time to play the Marla and Dave Love Game. Here are Marla and Dave to explain how it works.
All right, you guys know about the MaD Love Game. The MaD Love Game was a game created by Marla and me. It has the 3 categories that we think affect most relationships. That's sex, communication, and finance. It's played by rolling a single die, and it has those categories on it, as well as a lose a turn, which you don't want to roll, or a MaD logo, which you do want to roll because you get to choose whatever category you want to. Dina, we're going to allow you to do the honors and roll the die for us.
Sex. David weighted your
man.
die again.
I finally got
You
my...
can put him in the doghouse too, Dan. If he gets out of line, don't worry.
I finally got my...
We've been talking about doing a new love game. I said we're going to do the MaD X. The MaD sex game. Because that's all really David in the cards. But I just can't figure out the categories.
You know what?
You're Scorpio.
You're going to go into the doghouse for pretty much saying that I'm only into sex. I'm
David,
multidimensional.
You're not.
Anyway,
sex and music, and then music while having sex. That's exactly what it is.
And thinking about baseball for the rest. Anyway, so the question for this card, Dean, is how many calories do you think a teaspoon of semen have? How many calories in a teaspoon of semen?
Gee, are y'all seriously asking me that?
This is the real thing.
All the questions, by the way, are researched from the PEW Research Center.
The Pew Research Center.
There
is
is
real.
an actual answer.
There is an actual answer.
And I know it.
Okay, you do.
Look into my eyes.
Uh-oh. So tell me the question.
How many calories does semen have per teaspoon?
Are contained in a teaspoon of semen.
Wow.
Okay, Marla, please.
Okay.
It's disturbing for our we can't think.
This is what this is supposed to help you.
We can't think.
God is the family show.
This is the only way to measure.
I guess, oh my gosh. I guess maybe 50?
Dina, now, first of all,
Dina.
I'm going to give you credit.
Dina,
because the first time
Dina, don't try to act like...
She's like,
is it the family show? 27, exactly.
And a half, depending on if it's in the
well,
morning
what
or
size
the
is the
evening.
spoon, Dave?
But I'll say this, Dina, kudos to you because the first time we asked this question, we had answers.
We were on a cruise.
As varied as someone said.
1900.
1900
and I'm like,
calories.
what kind of smorgasbord semen do you have?
That's
some fat back.
That's
semen.
like who's the guy, the chef that says
some
bam
pork.
Next thing you know, he's still with a lasagna and some fried chicken.
Tony
Anyway,
said it must have been in a bowl.
Anyway, the
that,
actual answer is 36 calories. 36. So you were very close. I give you that. So here's the further
How'd you figure
discussion
that out,
question.
Dina?
Because I just know a little bit about
do you?
Physiology.
Calories.
Physiology, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I get the carrot, but
each question has a further discussion point because when you're playing with a bunch of your friends, it becomes really funny and fun. So the further discussion question for this card is swallowing better? Why or why not?
Oh, my word.
Well, first of all, let me just say this from my very vast experience in a monogamous relationship for many, many years. The semen quality is different depending on what one should be dining on. Now, there are times
that goes without
I
saying.
don't want to swallow because Dave has been eating way too much gluten and veggie meat, and that makes his semen a little bitter. So if you eat more veggies, Dave, then I can swallow more often.
So what you're really saying is you need to keep pineapples and coconuts and stuff around the house.
Asparagus is not necessarily good either. I'm just saying.
The funny thing about that is when Marla was breastfeeding, she was like, "Hey, taste the milk." I was like, "I don't know how babies do this. This is gross."
I made him drink it because he was too busy trying to force me to
and
nurse
I think
every
we had
minute.
eaten some chili that night. I'm like,
David has his own little issues. I hate to expose
what's
them all here
with
on
collard
the show.
greens / chili flavored milk? This is just not right. Anyway, so I feel sorry for babies. You don't know how
And
good
the sad
you have
thing
it
is, he
once
didn't
you
even
grow
get to
up.
drink it right out of the breast, which might have even been better for you. I put it in a cup.
No, that would be even worse. Anyway, that's the MaD Love Game. So you can get your own version of the MaD Love Game by going to www.marlandave.com. Click on the MaD Merch tab, and there you see the MaD Love Game and other things that you can buy.
I said you won't get us, but you will get us if you actually have us come and host an event for you, and you want us to actually host your Mad Love game as they did on the Capitol Jazz Cruise.
Absolutely.
And we will have a blast. But anyway, in the meantime, hit it at the Mad Merch. We'll be right back with the show.
David is a thinker.
I never do anything without thinking about it first.
Marla is a feeler.
I basically wear my personality on my sleeve.
But when Marla and Dave get together, it's like a match dancing with a firecracker. This is the Marla and Dave radio show on the Universal Broadcast Network.
All right, right before we get back to the show, we have to actually take a
we
little
killed
break
Deanna.
to go through the poll question. Not last week, the last time we actually had a live show, the poll question was, which agenda should be a priority? Should it be, especially when we have these mass murders, should it be mental health, gun control, or both? Actually, the results are 40% said mental health, 10% said gun control, and 50% said both. And I think I actually agree with the both perspective, because you need to physically control the amount of guns and high...
There's never a need for there to be an assault rifle on the street.
High-capacity magazines
Doesn't
that
even
can
make any
shoot
damn
way
sense.
too many bullets that fast. That has nothing to do with hunting or self-protection. That is actually an assault weapon. And there's hardly any other use for that. So, and at the same time, it does turn out that people that are in their right mind just don't have the desire to actually just kill masses of people or children or something crazy like that. And I say crazy only to the extent of that is abnormal to even have a desire to actually kill mass numbers of people. Anyways, next week's poll question is, with the current spotlight on sexual harassment, is there a double standard when it comes to same-sex harassment allegations? Your options are yes, no, or clueless. I have no idea. And you can actually fill out the poll. We want to know what you're thinking. We want your opinion at the www.marlandave.com or anywhere on our social networks. We're going to get back to the show.
Can you handle the truth? This is modern American dialogue in a mad world from two unique, fresh, transparent perspectives. This is the Marla and Dave radio show.
Well, for sure today, I can definitely say that we'll never have enough time. But one thing that I do want to say, this crisis for me, and I've cried on your shoulder, has brought out some of it has revealed a lot of very stressful relationships that are close to me. And I just have to say that it's unfortunate. Our son didn't pick this. The people who you love don't choose this. And those of us who have the ability to continue to love, it's painful for everybody who is in love connection with you, as well as it is for those who suffer. So I if there's any way, I can encourage everybody to just, talk to those who are affected, find out what works best for them. If you truly love, it's not about, I've never been dealt with before in my lifetime with those who are closest to me with what I now understand to be more criticism than care. I'm already suffering. So that's just something that you and I talked about, and you actually enlightened me and said something to me that really just lifted my spirits, which was just insane. And so, for those that this is the gift that I've been given. This is the platform that God chose. So that's what I have to say to everybody who's listening. Try to drown out the noise, and be there in the way that you're supposed to be there. And I will continue to go forward with that type of love.
And if I can just speak to that real brief, we talked about, the culture that we have, this rape culture, and you just mentioned the poll, with the sexual harassment climate we have going on now. It almost feels like a double whammy for me sometimes because if I am open about my mental illness, then I stand to get some backlash from that, right? If I'm open about my trauma, my sexual trauma from early on, there's some backlash about that. But when I'm open, it's not just for the folks who are hearing what I'm saying, but it's also for me too. Right? This helps me to normalize my experience and share it so that it is not some dark, dirty secret.
As
right?
well, it seems like it informs, you allow it to inform yourself that this is not going to have power over me.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Nor will I allow my transparency, my openness, my desire to heal somebody else make it about them, right? Because they're ashamed or they don't want to, if you love me, if you care about me, and I'll say this thing about the the sexual harassment and assault and the whole rape culture that we live in. These men who are being exposed, they are somebody's husband and son and father and all that, and kids probably felt like dad's just the son's sex and all that kind of stuff with dad. And listen, all that may be true for that experience with that kid, and that's great.
Yeah.
But this is what happened to
me. Yeah.
Right? And so don't diminish me. And as a matter of fact, I'm not even going to allow that to happen because you're going to do what you want to do to me, right?
Absolutely.
Right?
And I'm glad you said that too.
So that's the same way with mental illness as it is we are talking about, the sexual assault thing too, is you're going to say whatever it is you want to say. You can call me all kinds of names. Do your thing. Knock yourself out. My priority is, Deanna, you got to take care of yourself because there are other people who love you and depend on you
and can be helped by your transparency.
Absolutely. So that's what I would say to that. Speak your truth. Hold your truth in honor. And be you. I'm sorry, but I am kind of sick and tired of being in bondage and not being free because of what other people are thinking, right? So I have some pretty heavy stuff to deal with in my life, but I get to do stuff like this.
Well, you handle it with grace, and I just want to say thank you for sharing us and giving us a view to inside the diagnosis, because it helps people like Marla and I and families who are dealing with loved ones who at times they don't quite understand. This kind of sheds some light in there.
Desmond Pierre-Louis says, as always, thanks so much for these shows. Bless you both. Thank you to Deanna as well. What courage.
Absolutely. And I say thank you because not only do you share in transparency, but you've taken the next step and you help others in a way of now that you're working with Nami. I want to also give Nami a shout out because
most of it, I was going there.
I was about to say,
because Cars Warren is also saying we definitely need a part 3 with Deanna.
Yeah. So again, Nami, Deanna's with the San Fernando chapter of Nami, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, but there is a chapter close to you wherever you are in the United States.
And I have people that are close to us that have already joined here locally. And David and I have signed up to take the family to family.
Yes. And if you will just allow me to say real quick.
Of course.
The family to family course that Nami offers is absolutely beautiful. People coming out of that class repeatedly say, where was this class when, I needed it years ago?
In crisis, yeah.
Yes. So Nami is a secret. We're trying to, take the lid off of the secret, blow it up. So please do get in touch with Nami. If you live here in the Valley, it's Nami S, and that's N as in Nancy, A, M as in Mary, I, S as in Sam, F as in Frank, V as in Victor.org. That's NamiSFV.org. Hope starts with the helpline.
There you go.
So call 818-994-6747. That is our helpline number. Please, by all means, do come. We have education classes like the family to family class that Marla and Dave is getting ready to take.
Peer to peer.
Yeah, there's peer to peer as well. I certainly hope that you will share your experience with family to family on air. Peer to peer is sort of like the sister to family with the baby to family to family, and it is a course for people with
one quick question, Tony. Just give us one hot second because Beverly Hinkley asked way earlier, and I said I'm going to make sure I ask about medication. What is for what you are dealing with? the medical protocol right quick and what medications usually are, and you can just speak in general.
Sure. And thank you for saying that, because I can't speak about any
anybody else's
directly, because different medicines affect people differently. I take an antipsychotic when I have to, but a mood stabilizer all the time.
Okay.
I work in partnership with my doctor. I advocate for myself. He's pretty awesome. I go and interview them because, they kind of are working for me and everything.
Absolutely.
Right?
No,
So I'm not just
absolutely.
going to just take what
Indeed.
they say, right? It's a partnership. And I just explain and describe what's going on to me every time that I go. He asks me the questions that need to be asked. How are you sleeping? How are you eating? How are you managing this medicine or dealing with this medicine? And if there needs to be adjustments are made. There might be an increase in the mood stabilizer. Antipsychotic might be added if I'm having a particular problem. So that's how I'm treated. But I go through all kinds of coping stuff, because the pills unfortunately aren't magic.
Yeah, no,
and
we so appreciate you coming on and being transparent and all the help that you've given us as we share the help with others. So,
And just
again,
a reminder, on November the 8th,
the Dr. Phil episode.
Dr.
will be
Phil
airing.
episode will air, and we'll follow up the week following that. But next week, we have AD, Monisa's girlfriend, and other invited guests, and we're going to be talking about sexual harassment. These are lesbian ladies who are going to come forward and talk about whether it's the tables are even, and whether this is something that they're dealing with on the other side. So,
and can I just say real quick, thank you so much for inviting Nami to come and, inviting me, and I'm here representing Nami for sure, onto the show and getting this message of hope out.
Always welcome. This has been the Marla and Dave Show. See you next week.